Hello, welcome back to another episode of D54. Back with the OG, back with the main man, back with Mr. Sunny. Super excited, man. Welcome back to the show.
Thanks so much, man. It's been a long hiatus, it feels like. 7.5 months. Had a
Yep,
child in the meantime, little guy
correct.
named Felix, so got my hands full, but glad to be out of the hiatus and back watching some Malayalam films, man.
Man, it's been yeah, since February, I think. The last time you guys
Yeah,
seen Sunny would be in February. And for anyone new that's coming across our channels that's not familiar with Sunny, Sunny's an OG of the channel. We started the channel basically together. Before we were even doing Malayalam movies, we were talking about other stuff. So Sunny's been around
that's right.
for a
We go
long
way back.
time.
Yeah,
Check our channel out. You'll see Sunny on many movies, Mohanlal movies, Mamuti movies, newer
love
movies,
it.
older movies, everything, including the prequel to this movie, which so for me, man, I'm really happy because I was waiting towards this movie. Like
Yep,
I got suggestions. I think it's time you guys watch Chenkol. I think it's time you
yep.
watch this movie, and I'm like, I know I should watch it, but I'm not going to watch it without Sunny, because yeah,
Have to do it together.
it's
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
have to, man, have to. I mean,
Especially,
we had so much fun with doing Kireedam the first time, and how good. I mean, till this day, I've said it before. Kireedam is still probably my favorite Malayalam movie till date. Even though we've seen so many, it's one that just stays with me just because of the impact of that movie
yeah,
and seeing this guy, this innocent guy, this good guy, turn into something else due to circumstances beyond him, and to see it now. Like this just completes the whole circle for me, and it's hard to do
yeah,
a sequel, and they did it.
that's
So,
right.
what were your general thoughts about this movie, man?
Oh man, I mean, going back, well, I absolutely loved Kireedam as well. I think the emotional resonance that film has, I still
Yeah,
remember the feeling of watching that film. Like, it wasn't all that long ago, but like,
yeah.
you know what the main beats were, and like the father-son relationship in that film
Oof.
was at its very core and was just absolutely devastating. And this film, as you're saying, a genuine sequel. It wasn't something that they needed to concoct just because this first one
No,
was such a great film. There was actually a story to be told here, and the story needed to be told, and it came full circle, as you're saying. Like, everything happens for a reason, and you almost can't look at this as two separate films. It could
no.
be just one really long film,
Yeah,
because it really does circle back to things that happened in Kiridam,
yeah.
and kind of really completes out the Mohanlal character, I think, and the lives of the people around him as well. Oh man, devastating but
It really
amazing.
does. It really does, yeah. And I mean, in my head, I'm like debating which movie I like more, but you are
Yep,
right. You don't really need to choose because it is really just one big movie. Like if you just think of it like that, it's one story.
it is one
Um,
story. Yeah,
it's they're not like they didn't take us in a different direction. We just continued right from
no,
where we finished in Kiridam.
no,
Well, I mean, well, we skipped the prison part, but
yeah, yeah, yeah.
aside from that, like we didn't see that journey, and that could have been if they wanted to make this a three-part sequel, that could have been a whole movie in
Yeah, yeah,
itself, I
yeah.
think. But they decided not to do that, which is I'm fine with that. I didn't really need to see that, but yeah, this movie, man, it took me back to some of the feelings I had with Kiridam, but in a way this movie felt a lot darker and a lot sadder, like a lot sinister. Because at least in Kiridam, the first half, you got glimpses of who he was without the burdens of what he had done. This movie,
Yes.
there's none of that. There's no joy in this movie, and even when there is, it's quickly squashed.
Yeah, yeah,
There's not much time to
yes.
really smile in this movie. It's really taken away from you really quickly. So, fantastic movie, man.
I couldn't agree more, man. I feel like from the very first scene, you as soon as you know that he's gonna be released from prison after 8 or 9 years,
Mm,
you know exactly what his life is gonna be like, and you're almost just slowly progressing towards the ending that you know is most likely. You're hoping that he can get some sort of a happy ending and his family too, but the
yeah,
mood and tone of this movie, you're pretty confident from kind of the vibe of the opening scenes that
yeah.
this is not going anywhere good.
No, and it's continuous. That's the thing. Like it doesn't
Yeah,
really let up at
it's
all. Like he
relentless. That's right.
gets out of prison, he meets his friend. And I did actually appreciate that. This movie, because Kiridam, if you were to critique Kiridam at all, which I think is very hard to do, but if you were
Mm,
to say that there's some parts I didn't like about Kiridam, you could say some of the characters weren't given enough time to be fleshed out because it
yes.
was really about the father-son relationship, as you sort of mentioned before. And this movie is not really about it is in a way about the father-son relationship, but Tilika's role is definitely much smaller and he's given much less time. And the other characters I think have more time to sort of come up a little bit more,
Yes,
including the
yes,
friend, including the new characters that is in his life. He's doing this thing where he's balancing, his life from the old to his new, and what
yes.
it's really the thesis of the movie is like the shadows of your past and how you can't escape them essentially, and how that leads to your downfall in the
Absolutely.
end. So I think it does a great job of balancing that. So it does feel
Yeah.
like a different movie, which is great. It's not more
Yes.
of the same. which which I
Excellent
really
point.
liked,
Yes.
because if it
Yeah.
was just Kireedam 2.0 and they're just, the father son relationship again, no, that they give us enough, context to know how bad and fractured that relationship is.
Yes.
But then they show how much of an impact it has on society, on different people, the struggle with
The ripple
Mohanlal
effects of
himself,
all of these
the
actions.
identity
Yes.
crisis he's facing. It's so much. There's so much to like about this movie, and there's so much to dissect as well. I feel like,
100%, man. There's a lot to get into, and
uh,
man, I feel like any scene I watch on this, I'm gonna be like somewhat like wretched or like feel
yeah,
traumatized by, but oh man, it's gonna be a pleasure.
definitely, definitely. Now, looking forward to this, guys. As we do, we're going to do our review reaction kind of style. So we're going to do some scene reactions. I'll be honest, when I was cutting this apart, it was pretty hard for me because when we're talking a little bit offline, one of the beauties of this movie, I think this movie, if I compare the two, I think what this movie does a little bit better even is really let you sort of just be in this world of like Mohanlal and his sort of pain that he's in, because it really stretches scenes. It really gives you time to sort of, the intro scenes to all the characters. The first like hour, I think it is a longer movie as well, so they really spend more time. Now, part of that is because they are referencing like previous scenes, and there's a whole 10-minute intro scene which was very helpful, to be honest, because it got me, it
Yeah,
not just
I needed
reminded
that.
me it not just reminded me of what happened, but it also just took me back to the place of where I was when I saw those
Mm,
scenes, like him grabbing that knife and pointing it at his father, that iconic scene.
yeah.
Um, and the whole fight scene he had with at the Joe's character and the family, and
Yes,
it took you back to all of that. So it was a bit longer
that's
because of
right.
that. But the feeling of this movie is so much more different. I would say it's less plot driven.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
it's more.
yeah.
I mean, even though there's a lot of plot, it feels like it's more about the emotion of this movie. Whereas the first one was more
Yes.
about driving the plot along to see the detriment of this man.
Yes.
This one just feels like it's, yeah, like it's going to put you deep into the water and you're going to feel it.
That's right. So much of this is just about understanding how the actions in the first movie are affecting other people. And in that sense, it's
Correct.
less about, the plot points and more about dealing with the repercussions of the
Correct.
actions of the Mohanlal character, which is, yeah, amazing, especially when we get more information about characters who seemed insignificant or just,
Yes.
goons or whatever in the first character. They get built out and become their own people, which I thought was
Correct.
just amazing.
Amazing. Well, let's get into the first scene, man. Let's now heads up, the guys. Obviously spoilers and all that, but like these scenes are kind of, 'cause as I said, because these scenes are very like long and such. I've had to cut them up and mash them together, so it's a bit of a mishmash of scenes. They still make sense, but you'll see I'm skipping. So if you know the original movie, it's not going to be the same as that, because yeah, I'm trying to keep this concise and trying to keep the reaction space not. The focus isn't the reaction. It's just for us to talk about the scenes in more context. So let's get into this.
അമ്മേ സേതു
So this is the welcome back, man.
എന്റെ മോൻ അമ്മേ പതുക്കെ എന്റെ മോനെ ഞാനൊന്ന് കാണട്ടെ വേണ്ട ഇവിടെ വന്നാ മതി എന്റെ മോനെ സേതു അകത്തേക്ക് ഇരിക്കാം അമ്മയ്ക്ക് തീരെ സുഖമില്ലടാ എന്തെങ്കിലും ഒന്ന് പറയടാ അമ്മയോട്
His performance was also fantastic, man.
He
Thilakan's
was amazing,
just
just like
a
in
man
Kireedam.
that's just destroyed, right?
Broken. Yeah.
ഞാൻ ഉച്ചയ്ക്കെത്തി ഇന്നലെ ആയിരുന്നു വിട്ടത്.
ഹമീദ് പറഞ്ഞിരുന്നു ചിലപ്പോൾ റിലീസിംഗ് ഉണ്ടാവുന്നു.
ലതേ എന്താ മോളെ ഇത്? കരയല്ലേ?
അച്ഛനെ കണ്ടോ ഇവിടെ ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു
കണ്ടു.
Yeah, basically just the intros of all the characters. There's one more that I think I omitted, which was the other really peculiar one. I think it was like the young boy that was there who's studying to be a doctor, and then
Oh,
he
yeah,
goes and
his
visits him.
the
Um,
brother, yeah.
Yeah, it's his brother, isn't it? Yeah, it's
Yeah,
his
yeah, yeah,
brother. Yes, that's
Ramesh
right.
and all. Yeah,
Um, it's his brother, and yeah, there's a scene where he goes and visits him, and he basically doesn't want to even acknowledge that he's my brother. He's like my
no,
cousin.
he's kind of either
Um,
ashamed or is concerned about how other people
yeah,
will see him. Yeah,
but I mean, like you can tell, like right from the start, as you sort of mentioned, as soon as you get into this movie, the family's lives are completely different to what we saw in the first at the start of Kiridam. Like it's not a
yeah,
joyful family; it's a family
no,
that's basically had the weight of Setu's mother one's I guess his crime basically on their shoulders the whole time. And a lot of this movie is about guilt as well. And it's not
mm,
just I was thinking about this before. It's not just Setu's guilt. It's actually the guilt of the whole family. They all
yeah,
carry it. It's
yes,
like the
yes,
legacy now.
yes.
So pretty powerful scenes right there, just to see
Oh,
everyone's. It's
man,
it's a great setup. The movie does such a good job of just setting things up so quickly and so effortlessly with
that's
so many
right.
different characters, and how each one is different. It feels like they're all going through their own
Absolutely.
struggles, and they all have their own different perceptions of Setu and how they're gonna interact with him now in this new world.
That's right. I mean, I love that they did take time to have him introduce himself back to all of his family members, like it wasn't just one big scene, because as you're
Yeah,
saying, everyone's response to him is slightly different. The mother is obviously overjoyed, but we discover that she's sick. So, her health
yeah,
has deteriorated in the meantime. The dad's kind of just acknowledges that he knew it was going to happen. And he's probably thinking about, okay, what does this mean for my family now? Is this just another mouth to feed? What chaos
yeah,
is Sethu Madhavan going to bring back into my life? His sisters are obviously very happy to see him as someone who can maybe alleviate some of the pain in their lives and the struggles they're going through. But yeah, you do just get a sense that in just about every way, his family's lives have gotten much worse.
yeah.
And that really is one of the enduring themes. And you mentioned this at the start, that nothing can go back to the way it was before.
No,
Everyone can pretend, but the reality is just crushing them. They all are doing things or living in conditions that they did not expect to be. And
yeah,
what is painful is trying to actually reclaim the past and take things back to
correct.
the way they were. And the times that Setu Madhavan tries to do that, he realizes very quickly that's not even a possibility anymore. He needs to
No,
adapt to this new world and become someone different. And
correct.
that's crushing. But yeah, I do love all of those intros, man, because they just really highlight the family dynamics and the individual dynamics between the family members.
Correct. No, you're exactly right. I would have been if they had just some one big family gathering. It would have been probably a disservice to treat. It would have treated the family as one unit, which
Yes,
would be a disservice to each of the characters
100%.
individually. Which Kiridam, I don't know. I can't remember. I can't recall if they give that much time to the other characters
Probably
as they
not as
did
much.
here. It was more the
Yes,
father, and as I said, the
yes,
father Tilikan has less of a role here. But like we see the mother like in anguish, and the relationship between the mother and son is explored a lot more. The sister and brother relationship is explored much more as well.
much more. Yeah.
With sort of her role and sort of what she's having to do to
Oh,
support
man.
the family now because of the situation. There's so many different factors at play. Health, like even Tilikan, I think he was a retired police officer now, so
Yeah.
he's just going around, and I think he's just making ends meet. I can't recall what exactly he's doing to make money, but he has to still provide for the
Yeah,
family
yeah, yeah.
essentially.
Yes.
And the sister's obviously doing things that she wishes she didn't have to do. She's not getting married because of that as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So many implications are there. Like it's just it's everyone's impacted in different ways, and the only I guess beacon of light is the son who's studying medicine, who's away from them
Yes.
and living
Yes.
his life. And we see that he's not really he doesn't accept Setu like who he's like as he is anymore. He's actually distancing himself from him. So
Yeah.
this adds to the heartbreak. And I mean we'll talk about it plenty throughout this movie, but like I mean Mohanlal's performance in this is just like wow. Like I mean, the transformation was amazing in Kireedam. In this movie, it's again just as amazing because he goes to other places in this one, which is a testament to
Yes.
the writing to have such a dynamic character, such a complex character that you can go somewhere. But Mohanlal's performance, man, what do you think about how he sort of portrayed this character?
My God, like I think this might be his best performance that I've seen to date, just
Yeah,
because there's so many layers to it. It's not just nice guy loses his mind and does something bad.
yeah,
There is nice guy here. There is someone trying to grapple with their reality. There's someone who's sad. There's someone who, has a goon phase where he's, brutal and beating
yeah,
people up. There's moments where he's trying to be happy. There's so many like ebbs and flows to his character. It is incredibly layered, man. And uh, like re-emphasizes just what an amazing character he is and the amazing kind of range that he has as a character
yeah.
actor.
Definitely, and it's all the subtleties, right? It's like I mean, there's a few moments where he goes over the top and he does like he does
Mm.
actions to express who he is basically. But otherwise, a lot of it, like especially in this first like half an hour, 40 minutes, it's just somber. It's just
It is.
sadness, and he's carrying himself around. It's like very calculated. Like he approaches people
Yes.
like in a very calculated manner. Like I'm walking to you, then
Good
I'll stop and
observation.
look at you and be like, okay. He's almost like reading them before he's approaching them. But then when he gets that moment of joy, he'll just go into joyful Mohanlal mode that we
Yes.
sort of see and that we're more comfortable with. So he's able to, yeah, the range is ridiculous in this, and someone like him like is made for a character like this. It's just so complicated. I think I was reading somewhere where they were talking about how the director, who, sorry, not the director, the writer, aka Lohithadas, who did the
Yes.
first movie as well, and I think we've
Yes.
done a few movies of his actually.
Yes.
Um, Amazing writer. Like I mean, unfortunately lost too soon. But I think he was. Let me see on Wikipedia. I was seeing he was reading saying that he thinks that this was his best performance. Um,
Right.
yeah, I feel he's performed best in Chenkol. And honestly, yeah, then comes Kireedam, and then another movie called Brataram, which I have not seen, which we have not covered on this. So if you guys know about
Yeah.
that movie, let us know about it. We'd love to know more about this movie. But yeah, I would actually agree. His performance in um, I think Chenkol was probably a little better than it was in Kireedam, I think, because of the fact that
Yeah.
in in Kireedam we got to have that joyful mode for half the movie. And I feel like he does that
Yeah.
so effortlessly. But in this movie,
Yes.
one he turns villain for a while, like he turns like a complete goon as you mentioned. But I think the more powerful scenes are these ones where he's just playing like this disheveled character and having the internal
100%.
struggle. You see it.
Yes. I think that's the there's a lot going on in his mind, and he's
Yeah.
not always sharing that. He kind of breaks down a couple of times with that friend who he meets right out of
Yes.
prison and gives him his thoughts, but you get the sense that the Sethumadhan character is just so burdened by the past. Like, he carries that with him, and there's a kind of physicality to that demeanor that Mohanlal is able to portray so well. And when I think of Mohanlal, I don't think of someone who's like in this dark, brooding phase so much. I think of
Yeah.
him as that joyful character in the first half of Kireedam, but he just inhabits this role so well, man. Like, he's as natural in that mode as he is in the joyful, playful mode as well.
Definitely, man. No, it's a great performance. Let's get on to the next one.
ചെയ്യാം.
Just straight out the gate, being attacked.
This is no escaping the past.
No. It's like every corner
Yeah.
is.
This guy can't catch a break.
Yeah. Yeah, so again, I've had to cut that one short a little bit, but I mean, it's sort of bringing up the points I wanted to talk about. The action choreography. There's a lot of good action in this movie compared to
There
Kireedam.
is
Um,
far more
Kireedam, he
complex scenes.
had like one. It had like essentially one scene, which was absolutely insane. The one where they're fighting in the big circle, in
Yes.
like the market or something like that. But this
Yeah,
one has
yeah,
a few
yeah.
more sort of scenes where, but I love how like a lot of these scenes are good because like every scene in this, like each of the scenes that the fight scenes tell a story. Like he's basically, he's come out of prison, he can't escape the past, and straight away, like the old family that they're after him, and that's a whole
Yeah.
sort of side plot. And there's a whole battle
Yes.
between who the bad guys are. They're sometimes bad guys, but then sometimes they're not as well. It's not black and white either. Like they're kind of playing in
No.
different modes as well. Like because there's a good story
Yes.
they have too, like with how they bring back the older character. But there's good
Really
action
beautifully done.
sequences here, which is pretty intense. And there's moments where the action is good because now we've seen how he's like in Kireedam,
Yeah.
and sort of the phase he has, and he takes us back to that at moments. Like when he's beating up the
Yes.
guy there, it's like, are you gonna go back to that person? It's like teasing
Yes.
him back.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
it's up to him to fight. Are you going to be not? And again, the police are against him as well. He was innocent there. He was basically
That's
just chased
100%.
and
Yeah, yeah,
defending
yeah.
himself again. But he's in the wrong once more, and he's getting beaten up by the police. So society is against him once again. He can't escape that. It's just, yeah, Yeah,
It's a
it's
brutal
tough.
scene, man. Like, that is the first part of him trying to get back some degree of normal life. He's trying to
Yeah,
find a job so
job.
that
Yeah,
he can go support his family who are in desperate need of financial assistance. And the moment something good might happen,
yeah,
a reminder from his past
just
immediately
comes
comes
in.
to try and take him back to that darkness and says, "In no way are you ever going to be able to live a normal life here, because the
Yeah,
actions you've done in the past will always linger over you and ruin everything that is in front of you." It is
like,
such a beautiful, both like genuine scene, but also as a metaphorical scene as well. It's just
yeah.
amazing, man. And yeah, just how he can't seem to escape the need for
No,
violence. It continues to
follows
follow
him.
him and demands it of him. And like, yeah, he can't break the cycle.
No, it's that's what sort of the story is a lot about. Like, how can you actually break away from your past or not? Like, can you move
Yeah,
on from that? There's when I was thinking about this movie afterwards, there's a lot of themes. This movie is pretty deep. Like, I feel like it has a lot of themes, and like it reminds me a lot of sort of the older, textbooks I've read, like from like I don't want to sound like a snob here, but like it gave me a lot of like Dostoevsky like
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
vibes
yeah, yeah,
because a lot
yeah.
of his stuff was
Yes,
existentialism and
that's
fate
right.
versus
Dealing with guilt
determinism,
and all
dealing
of
with
that. Yeah,
guilt and
yeah,
family with the brothers Kamarazov. So a lot of those themes came to my mind, and I was like, wow, this is actually pretty. It's right in line with that. Just obviously it's a
yeah.
movies, but so it's a little bit different format, but it goes into that world of just basically
100%.
what can you like how much of your life are you actually in control of and can you escape the things of your past or not?
It's
So
an
is this
excellent
his
point.
fate, or
Yep.
is it just something that the actions of our past cannot be forgiven? We cannot move on from them. It's such a deep movie like that. Like it's got so many of these themes.
100%. You can appreciate it on all of those levels. It's a pure, just great story that needs to be
Yeah,
told, but also there's a layer below that, which is questions about violence and guilt and,
yeah,
even a sense of destiny. When I think about the fact
yeah.
that he is saved by the daughter of the man he killed,
Yes,
like, of all of the places he needs to end up or people who might end up saving him, what are the chances that it's her, and that
exactly.
family? And so, yeah, there is that kind of, overarching question of, how much are we really in control of what life throws at us?
That's what I love about this movie. It's like it's pretty complex like that. It treats everything like maturely, and it's not just like it really respects the audience to be like, hey, things don't always just work out because you did something bad. Everyone's going to be
True.
turn against you. Like that's not really how it works sometimes. Like yes, in movie world, that's what we probably see. Like yes, I'm going to go out for revenge and take revenge on you, but there are other approaches to things. Even in that first scene, we see this character who's lost his, like I think he can't move his hands or he's
Oh,
like
it's a
disabled in
beautiful
some way.
character. Yes.
Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
he was attacked and he's basically just lived in that world and he's made peace with what happened to him. So he's not going to dwell on that anymore. That's such a
Yes.
different approach to what the other family trying to do, which is trying to take him out by any
Yeah.
means properly. But even there's complexities in that because they try and take him out, as we see, and then it doesn't work, and they then go to the shelves until they get the big baddie,
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
uncle
yeah.
who comes in. But you have the father from that side who's also
Yeah.
really different, who's like out for blood. Like he's like
He's like,
he's like
you killed my, like,
yeah,
favorite son, essentially. Yeah.
exactly. There's so many different characters here that have so many different, like, unique
Approaches.
perspectives on life. And I'm like,
Yes.
wow, this movie has so much to offer. And it's done in short time. Like, that father character has, like, what, maybe 5 lines? Or maybe,
Yeah.
like, he barely has that much of a role, but his impact is good because it's in such contrast to the other
Yes.
characters that are there. The police
100%.
officers, the role of like the law here, like what do they
Yes.
do? Because like yeah, he's a criminal, but from the understanding of him, he's trying to escape this and trying to tell you that like, look, I'm not going to cause any trouble here, but he himself can't escape that.
Yes.
Yeah,
No, that's
it's a lot.
right. I find the police character very, like, interesting because he's so
Yeah,
immediately distrustful of the Southern Madhavan character. Maybe he thinks this guy is actually just gonna create trouble in his neighborhood. Maybe he
yeah,
foresees that this is actually gonna be a problem well before everyone
correct.
else who wants him released is. So maybe there's a kind of wisdom to what he sees
Yeah,
because he's not wrong. Like, everything
correct.
goes really bad, and he tells, the Thilakan character, "Get your son to leave this place
Yeah,
because that's the only way," and he, when they finally do leave, they have this kind of nice little life farming and all of that, and
yeah,
life is kind of a little bit better, but then obviously gets drawn back for other
yeah.
reasons.
Again, very very tough. But yeah, the police character is interesting because I guess because they do a good job of the other thing I don't know if we talked about this at the start of this at the start of this episode or before recording, but we talked a little bit about how they do a good job of balancing the new and the old because there
Yep.
are a lot of new characters in this movie, which a lot of
Yes.
movies struggle with. Like, how do you balance that? Like, you have a lot of these old characters coming in, such as the one we just saw,
Yep.
such as the family that we didn't see, but we sort of know of them. They even have the ghost, like they have like the ghost of the guy that died.
Shows, yeah.
So he's also there, and he comes back in like another form to give us some more backstory. So they do a good job of balancing this new and old, and there's also this contrast between how they treat him. Like the police officers, I think is new. I don't think he was in Kireedam,
No,
or
he
if he was, I
wasn't.
can't
Yeah,
remember.
I
No,
don't think so. No.
so he doesn't have all this baggage. He doesn't know who he is. But there's another like older police
Yeah,
officer
that
that knows
Hamid
him.
character. Yeah, yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
so he
yeah, yeah,
knows him,
yeah.
and he's like saying like, "Yep, I understand him a little bit different, and like, I have a
He's not a
different
bad
relationship with
man.
him."
Like, yes, yeah.
Exactly. So there's again just that balance and that sort of playing with these different perspectives. It's
It
brilliant,
is
man.
amazing, man. I think we said this before we started the podcast that that Jost character was nothing more than just a goon in the
Yes,
first
one
one. A
dimensional.
brutal guy. You're like,
Yeah.
yeah, he should die. Like he seems like just a guy going
Uh-huh.
around terrorizing this village and running the show, and even the police are kind of letting him do what he wants because he's that fearful and brutal and violent. And yet in this movie, you get this whole backstory that he's doing all of this for his family and
Yeah.
not even just his family, but also like this woman he marries and her daughter as well, who's like his
Yes.
side family, to set them up in a house
Yeah.
and fend for them while looking after all of his brothers and mother and father as well. And you suddenly get some humanity given to him. And
Yeah.
I thought that was beautiful.
I thought it was really good because that it's always risky, like retconning, I think they call it, like these kind of stories.
Yeah.
Like it didn't happen in the first one, so you got to do it delicately and in a way that makes sense, and don't give it too much
Yes.
time either, because then you're kind of just like you're kind of erasing what happened before. But I feel like
That's a
they've
good point.
got that balance right in this one, where it's like
Soundtrack.
small little snippets, and he's more troubled by him as like a ghost because he keeps seeing him come to life
Yes.
every now and then, all the way to the end. So it's something that's not left him. Like that one action he did is not going to leave him, and you can't just erase it. Like it can't just disappear.
That's right.
So it does a great job of that. I felt I was interested in every single character in this movie, like whether they're in it
Yeah.
for 2 minutes, 3 minutes, or the whole movie. Like everyone has
Yeah.
a story to tell, and they do a good job of fleshing them out. This could have honestly been a 3-part series with more, but it's just a testament to how well it's written that you can
Yeah.
tell so much with so little, which is beautiful.
And it's amazing. And it doesn't feel overly long either. Like you have
No,
enough time with all of these characters that they're fleshed out, but it doesn't have moments of just long lingering, like where
yeah,
nothing happens. Everything's building up for a reason.
correct. Yeah, there's always an impact or always a reason for someone's story to be involved, and it applies sometimes like for plot lines, but sometimes more for the theme as well,
Yeah.
or the what this movie's trying to tell you. So yeah, let's get on to the next one, man. So after he's been attacked
Yeah.
by the goons and he's hidden, there he is.
Speak with the ghost.
Yep.
എന്തായി കാട്ടണത്? എന്താ വേണ്ടത്?
എനിക്ക് പോണം.
ഈ നിലയിലോ? 2 ദിവസം കൂടി കഴിഞ്ഞിട്ട് എങ്ങടെ വേണമെങ്കിലും പോയിക്കോളൂ. അതുവരെ പോകാൻ ഞാൻ സമ്മതിക്കില്ല.
സമ്മതിക്കാതിരിക്കാൻ നിങ്ങൾ ആരാ?
ഇവിടെ കിടന്ന് മരിച്ചു പോയിക്കോട്ടെ എന്ന് വിചാരിച്ചില്ലല്ലോ. ആ അവകാശമുണ്ട്. വരൂ, വന്ന് കിടക്കൂ. നല്ല പൊടിയേരി
Such an
വെക്കണം.
interesting relationship.
നാളായാലും അത് കഴിക്കാം.
I find this so fascinating.
Yeah.
കിടന്നോളൂ. കുറച്ചു നേരം കഴിയുമ്പോൾ ഡോക്ടർ വരും. ഉള്ളിൽ എന്തൊക്കെയാ വിഷമമെന്ന് നേരിട്ട് പറഞ്ഞോളൂ.
ഇതാരുടെ വീടാ?
എന്റെ വീട്.
Oh.
അത് ഞങ്ങളുടെ പപ്പ. അറിയോ?
Oh my god.
അറിയാതിരിക്കില്ലല്ലോ അല്ലേ?
Wow. Yeah, we got to talk about
And
this relationship, man, between like this very unique situation. But it is sort of what you sort of mentioned before, like how I guess it's like, you don't know how where life's going to take you and who's going to help you. And that's what
no.
sort of this situation shows. Like he's being chased. He's basically had to run for his life but almost died essentially until she
Yeah,
saves him. And looks like she knows who he is. He is as well, right?
Yeah. I think she
Yeah.
knows immediately. Like I think she basically says like once they cleaned up his face and all of that, like it
Yeah, the
became
blood
obvious
off
who
the
he
face.
was.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, truthfully, man, this is probably the one relationship where I was like, can I believe this dynamic. Like
Yeah.
literally, she is falling in love or is romantically interested in the man who killed her
Her father.
father, the one who was looking after her and her mother meant so much to her. And I think they were saying that she was Jose's favorite, or like he really
Uh-huh.
doted on her. And I was like,
Yes, yes.
is there? Can I imagine a situation where you could actually fall in love with your father's killer like this?
Well,
And then you kind of have to maybe suspend that kind of thinking, because this is a completely different world we're kind of
yeah.
entering into. It's not kind of, 20, the century we're living in.
Yes, yes, yes. That's
It,
true.
there's violence here. There's a sense that, this is the way life goes. There is poverty and like
Yeah.
factors that I just can't comprehend and are so distant to
Yeah.
my current life, that you're like, okay, there is a possibility in which she could have these kind of feelings. And what a incredible perspective to have, this sense of
I know.
forgiveness, understanding of the fact that he did what he did, but he also has a family to look after, and if we kill him, then we are just perpetuating this cycle of loss, and it will
Correct.
harm even more people. Like it's such a valuable perspective to throw into the film, and I'm
Exactly.
glad that they did it.
Yeah, no, you are right. And I think you bring up a good point because it was also one that I was a bit, it takes a while to really accept what's happening here
Yeah.
between these two characters.
Yes.
But I think the way you put it is like it's very hard to transport ourselves back to like 1993, which the movie was shot
Yes.
in. And then it
Yeah.
was also a small town in Kerala. So
It's a
this
small
is,
time. True.
it's a,
True.
it's a completely different world. So we don't really know what's happened. But I do really appreciate the fact that they put this in here because we already have, again, this movie is all about perspectives. And this is another completely unique one, which is
Yes.
completely about, I guess it's forgiveness. Like she doesn't hold a grudge against him, and I
Yes.
don't really know how they start to fall in love. But maybe he just disarms her in the fact that
Yes.
he's not violent or he's not the person that she thought he would be. Because you don't,
Yes.
again, yes, he's a killer, but he's not really. That's the whole challenge
No.
with this movie.
He's
He's
pushed
not
into
a
it.
stereotypical killer. He's not like a murderer, which you
Yeah.
would associate him with, right? Like he's not somebody that's just gonna kill for no reason. He certain circumstances
The
brought him to do
circumstances.
what he
Yes.
had to do. So then she's able to have the maturity to understand that, and it's a different person almost, and she's able to see that. Where again, the mother isn't though. So I love that sort of dynamic they
Yes.
had as well that they were playing with. Like, how could we let this guy stay in our house? He killed her husband, and then I think she didn't have a good relationship with her husband because obviously it was like a side family, right?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
But there was a little of
I
that.
100%, man, and I just think that's such a valuable, like, perspective to put on it, and I think the longer you spend with the Mohanlal character, you know that he's fundamentally a good person, and maybe they both realize that in a way he is a lot like Jose, like, maybe
Yes.
circumstances are what made him to have this brutal persona. It's what he needs to do to get money, it's what he needs to do to survive in this, like,
Yeah.
violent world, and so maybe they're uniquely placed to actually see the good in him, because
Yeah.
their father or husband was someone who, in a way, was very similar, pushed by
Correct.
circumstances to become this kind of villainous character in the first movie that we discover was actually kind of a loving father and was taking care of his brothers and mother and father and everyone else. So, yeah,
Yeah.
it was beautifully done. Did take me a while, but I came to accept it in the end.
Yeah, same pretty much. And it did again. It just played with that balance of like the ups and downs of this movie. Like it's a down, then
Yes,
up again, then down once again. Pretty much after with when we keep going along the movie, it keeps doing that tide of like ups and downs. So this is another moment where it's like, okay, there's a bit of hope here. There's something
yeah,
happening which is a bit different. He's been saved by somebody he didn't expect to be saved by. So
yes,
it just gives that other. It's just such a well balanced movie. I feel like, and that's what makes it so. Like, while it's a hard movie to digest because of the themes and the content, it is a generally easy movie to watch. Like, I didn't
yeah,
struggle watching
yeah,
this
yeah.
movie.
You
Like,
kind of
it
take them
definitely
with the
isn't
flow.
boring.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's definitely not boring, and because of the ebbs and flows, it just makes it interesting because there's always a sense of tension or intrigue,
yes,
which you just sort of have to sort of go along with. So even
hundred
as an
percent.
entertainment piece, it works for me as well because there's just such an interesting journey.
Unbelievable. Really good point, because while I said at the start you kind of know where this film is going, I don't think
Yeah,
you know the plot points that it'll take to
no,
get there. And it's almost the characters who are the really interesting parts of this film, and less
exactly.
about where the ending is going, even though that also has a significance, both literally and maybe
Yeah.
metaphorically. But it's really that journey that makes this film really enjoyable.
It really is. Yeah, yeah. Because it is more of a challenge because Kireedam, I think, and obviously we're going to keep comparing the two because they're interlinked to each other. But Kireedam
Yeah,
is
yeah,
feels like a more straightforward movie to make, because you
Yeah.
kind of have like, a start and end. Like, yes, part one, we see him as a good guy. Part two, he struggles with, some issues happening in his life. Part three, he ends up doing what he does.
Descends
But
into yeah.
Chenkol, there's really, we kind of know where he's going to end up, if that's where you want to end up with him, ultimately ending. But how's he going to get there, and how are you going to make that intriguing? Like, there's got to be a journey that
Yes.
he goes through, and how are you going to explore that? And this movie does that so well from its pacing point of view, because, as I said, it's like you go through with each and every single step with him, and you see him slowly becoming this different person once again. And there's other things at play as well, like the other characters you mentioned, his own identity crisis, and the relationships, how they change. Like, the relationship he has with his friend changes over time. The relationship he has with a lot of characters change over time. With, like, even that guy who's I think he's one of the scenes. The guy who wants him to work for him, or something
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
that guy who's
Yes.
becomes
Yes.
like, he owns him. It's like a whole lot of stuff going on.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a rich movie, I think, like, and probably
really,
one where you can watch it multiple times and get more and more information out of it. But yeah, the character work here
definitely.
is excellent.
It's fantastic. Let's get on to the next one.
പപ്പായ്ക്ക് ചോറിരിക്കുന്നുണ്ടോടി?
Yeah,
അതെന്ത്
so here we
ചോദ്യാ?
go.
ദിവസം ഇയാളുടെ
Ah,
പക്കൽ
yeah.
മാറ്റി വെക്കും 3 നേരം.
ആ ഒരു ഉറപ്പേ എനിക്കുള്ളൂ. എന്റെ വീട്ടിലുണ്ടാവില്ല അത്. എല്ലാവർക്കും എന്റെ പണം മാത്രം മതി. ഞാനൊന്ന് വീണുപോയാൽ ആരും ഉണ്ടാവില്ല.
പപ്പ, ഇനി ഇതൊക്കെ നിർത്തിക്കൂടെ പപ്പ?
അങ്ങനെ അങ്ങ് നിർത്താൻ പറ്റുമോ? ഞാൻ തല പതുക്കെ ഒന്ന് താഴ്ത്തിയാൽ അടിക്കാൻ തരം നോക്കി ശത്രുക്കൾ
Yeah,
നിൽക്കും.
there you go.
മോളുടെ കാര്യത്തിലെ പപ്പയ്ക്ക് വിഷമുള്ളൂ. എനിക്ക് എന്തെങ്കിലും പറ്റിയ എന്റെ കുടുംബക്കാർ നിങ്ങളെ വെച്ചേക്കില്ല. വിനു എങ്ങനെയും ജീവിക്കും. അവൻ ആൺകുട്ടിയാണല്ലോ. നിങ്ങളെ ആരും അംഗീകരിക്കില്ല.
കുട്ടിയോട് എന്താ പറയേണ്ടതെന്ന് എനിക്കറിയില്ല. നിങ്ങളുടെയൊക്കെ ജീവിതം ഞാൻ മൂലം തകരുകയാണ് ചെയ്തത്. പക്ഷേ ഇപ്പൊ എന്റെ ജീവൻ നിങ്ങളൊക്കെ കൂടെ തിരിച്ചു തന്നു. പറഞ്ഞു തീർക്കാനുള്ളതല്ല അതൊന്നും. മറക്കില്ല.
So we already touched on a lot of these points here, but yeah, it just goes to show, the relationships that they have. But I do really like how we talked about it, but like how they humanize this character who was just a goon.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's done so well. I think that's the only scene we have with him talking like this. So
Yeah.
I think so. It's done just in a couple of minutes. That's the only. I think I can't remember him having another conversation. The rest is just him being the ghost and, like the
Yeah. Yeah.
hallucination
Yeah.
of him, which is different. But again, fantastic performances. Mohanlal's performance here was just,
Terrific.
again, just that like, that the sorrow he has on his face. This, like, he's just so
For what he's
grateful
done.
for this
Yes.
person that saved him. Maybe that's the part. That's the relationship building that they have. Like, he's just so
That's what I was thinking.
kind.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, right.
That
Maybe
she
that's what
sees
it's
the
about.
humanity in him, and almost in contrast to the scene before that you showed, where she saw her father being kind of very genuine and a lot of humanity, like
Yes,
putting that violence aside. She
parallel.
saw the humanity in him. She's seeing the humanity in Seth and Madhavan as well, and maybe that's kind of where it starts.
Yeah, definitely. There are definitely a lot of parallels. There's even, I think there's a monologue or something like that where they talk about, maybe it's one where he's drunk and he's talking to the family, like the mother and Indu, and he's saying something like, I'm a, like, you like you're an orphan, I'm an orphan now because of what happens afterwards. There's some scene like that where he's talking about like the similarities they have in their lives and things like that, and like the bridge that
Yes.
they have or something like that. So yeah, it's just, I mean, really good.
It's beautifully done, and I think it just, for me, it shows the full circle of the
Yeah.
Mohanlal character, because he kills this guy who he thinks is just a pure goon, only to become that man himself in a way, who has to
Correct.
use violence to get money for his family, to fend for them, but is
Yes.
actually a good man at heart. So he kind of becomes, in a way, the Jose character,
Yeah.
because if you just see him out in the village, he was creating all this violence, and he would just look like a random evil goon, and you'd say someone
Yep.
should kill him, just like we thought with Jose in the first movies, or with Jose in the first movie. So
Exactly
yeah, I
right.
think there's a beautiful parallel between both of those characters.
There really is, yeah. And they sort of they work to it really well by having small little interludes of Jose's
Yes.
role, but mostly just through Mohanlal's sort of, journey that he goes on, which gets more and more like, yeah, Jose as we sort of keep going, which is
Yeah.
ridiculous. Yeah, it's really well done.
നിനക്കതൊന്നും മനസ്സിലാവില്ലല്ലേ?
This is the turn.
മണ്ടൻ.
Ah.
എന്ത് ശരിയാ ഇത്? നിനക്ക് ആകെ ഒരു മാറ്റമുണ്ട്.
This part
ജയിലിൽ
broke
വന്ന
me,
It's
man.
almost the
പ്രതീക്ഷകളല്ല.
hardest part to watch.
I know, yeah. This was probably one of the hardest scenes.
ഒരു മനുഷ്യന് എത്രത്തോളം താഴാൻ പറ്റും?
That line is,
ഭൂമിയോളം അല്ലേ? പിന്നെയും ചവിട്ടാണ് തലയിൽ. എങ്ങോട്ട് താഴും? പാതാളത്തിലേക്ക് താഴാൻ മഹാബലിയല്ല, വെറും മനുഷ്യൻ സേതുമാധവനാണ്. ഇനി ഒരിക്കലെങ്കിലും ഒരു പ്രാവശ്യമെങ്കിലും എനിക്ക് ജയിക്കണോടാ, ഒരു പ്രാവശ്യമെങ്കിലും.
നീ വിഷമിക്കണ്ട, ഒക്കെ ശരിയാവും.
മിണ്ടരുതാ വാക്ക്. ശരിയാവും അത്ര. കേട്ടു തുരുമ്പിച്ചു. ജീവിതത്തിൽ 1000 വട്ടം എന്റെ മനസ്സ് എന്നോട് പറഞ്ഞിട്ടുണ്ട് ശരിയാവും. എന്റെ അമ്മ, അച്ഛൻ, പെങ്ങന്മാര്, അനിയൻ, ദേവി, നീ, അങ്ങനെ എല്ലാവരും പലവട്ടം പറഞ്ഞു ശരിയാവും. എവിടെ എവിടെ ശരിയായി? ശരിയാവില്ല. സേതുമാധവൻ ഒരിക്കലും ശരിയാവില്ല.
man.
സേതു, നമുക്ക് നാട്ടിലേക്ക് പോവാം. അവിടെ എൻ്റെ കമ്പനിയിൽ ഒരു ജോലി ശരിയാക്കി വെച്ചിട്ടുണ്ട്. നമുക്ക് മുതലാളി ഒന്ന് കാണാം.
എനിക്ക് വേണ്ട, ഞാൻ വരില്ല.
This is a man that's broken at this point.
See the shift in
Yeah.
എന്ത് ചെയ്യണമെന്ന്
mood and personality.
ഞാൻ തീരുമാനിച്ചിട്ടുണ്ട്.
I mean, that's one thing I really appreciate about Mohanlal, man. Like he's able to control a scene like that
Yeah.
so well. Like just such a powerful scene, and just with his dialogue, his expression, his body language, everything. Like obviously his expressions are off to the roof with his eyes. That's what he's famous for. But I mean, far out. Like this is a really heart wrenching scene because more than any of the action, this is the scene when he basically turns, what I would say turns heel.
Yeah,
To borrow,
yes.
to borrow a wrestling
Yeah, yeah,
term,
yeah.
he basically turns heel. He's basically just a villain now, and like, but it is a man that's completely at this point. It's such a good point. How much can he take? We have to
Yeah.
get this point. Like, how much more can he take? We kept seeing it throughout this movie. Like
He's trying to be a good man, and he
Yeah.
just keeps getting drawn back. Yeah.
And at this point, it's like it's pretty deep in the movie. Like we've gone through a lot. This isn't like an hour in. I think it's like more than an hour. So I think it's maybe an hour and a half, maybe in
Yeah.
that he's basically just dealt with this. Like he's just got to the point where I'm broken, and
Yeah.
it's impressive.
It's almost like, I've tried to fight the way things are, but I can't escape. So now I'm just
No.
going to accept it, and I'm going to just live in the way that will allow me to thrive in this world, and that means violence and just
Correct.
doing things I don't find palatable. But if that's what I have to do to survive, that is what I'm going to do. And I'm not going to run anymore because running seems to make no difference at all.
And he's at the point where he's beyond like even like rationality, right? Because his friend tells him
Yeah.
like, come to my hometown. I have a job lined up for you. That's what you're looking for, right? You're looking for a
Yeah.
job. Let me help you with this. And he's just decided, I can't. Like I can't do that anymore. And you're right. That subtle change of expression, when he's just sort of getting up, it's just like I'm a new person now. He's like
Yeah.
It's almost like he's always had that inside him, but
Yes.
he's just not let it out because he knows he's better than that. But again,
Yep.
at
He's
this
being
point,
forced into it. Yeah.
yeah,
Almost.
he has no
Yeah.
choice. So it's
He has
just
no
so,
choice.
so heartbreaking, man. To seeing him when he calls him like you're an idiot, I'm like, this is so uncharacteristic of
It's
you. We're
brutal.
not seeing
Yeah.
this side of you
It's
at all.
such a change in personality, and it takes you back to some of the darker moments he has in Kireedam
Yeah.
as well. But I love the little details. He's got the scars on his face, and he's like, I'm
Yes.
owning this scars. Like he is now just fully, I'm not trying to escape this. This is who I am. This is what I need to be to survive. And
Correct.
the world won't let me be anything else, so let me just be that.
Yeah, definitely. Like the names Kireedam and Chenkol, they both have like metaphoric meanings as well. So Kireedam means crown, from what I remember, and I think that was about the crown, and Chenkol means like specter. So I don't know if the fracture was meant to be like the crown is broken or something like
Yeah,
that, because
good point.
that's sort of where it's sort of coming from. So maybe it's just something like that. I wouldn't be surprised if that was the point of it. Like, yes, it's broken now, and I have to be somebody else because I've lost my crown.
Yes.
And now I'm just
Yeah,
going to take
he's
the specter and just rule.
100%. And,
Yeah.
and it's almost like that is a very literal interpretation of he's like, I can't go any higher or lower. He's like gone
Yeah.
from king, which is the top, to now
Yes.
being, whatever it is, a pauper, villain, a criminal. Like, yeah, it's
Yeah.
that, as we were saying, there's multiple interpretations of what's going on here, or layers to it. Yeah.
Definitely a lot of layers, but yeah, this one was definitely the hardest to stomach because
Yeah. The
Yeah,
change of
I mean,
character
like,
is
yeah,
so
the changing character.
devastating.
But yeah, and just yeah, I again appreciate him for just becoming like somebody else altogether. Again, if you see these two movies all together, Kireedam and Chenkol, this is the first time we see him actually go into that. Because even when he's committing the actions, they're not. There's like a sense of this is not you. When he's holding the knife to his dad,
True.
this is
Yeah.
not who you are. You're doing something else. But this is him accepting. This is who I am. Even if it's not him, that's something
No,
that he's accepting, and that's something that he's going to pursue. Which is just like, oh, this is the worst thing that could have happened. And they didn't do that in Kireedam at all. He never had that turn.
that's true.
So they had the time to do it here. So yeah,
It's
boy, it
especially
was
shocking for that reason. Yeah.
yeah,
It's
it was
heartbreaking.
brutal from here on. It was
Yeah.
just a different character altogether.
പോലീസ് സ്റ്റേഷനിൽ കയറ്റി എന്നെ ഉണ്ടാക്കാന്ന് വിചാരിച്ചോടാ. നിന്നെ നിന്റെ അനിയന്മാര് ഇനി അടിക്കും ഞാൻ. ഒരുത്തരം എന്റെ ദേഹത്ത് വിടില്ല. കൂലിത്തല്ലുകാരോ ഇരുട്ടടിക്കാരോ ഉണ്ടെ കൊണ്ടുവാ, നോക്കാം നമുക്ക്. നിന്റെ വായിക്കാതുണ്ടോടാ പഴം തള്ളിയിട്ടുണ്ടോ?
Wow, man.
ഇനി എന്നെ എന്നോട് ബന്ധപ്പെട്ട ആരെങ്കിലും തൊട്ടാ ഈ കൈയുണ്ടല്ലോ അത് ചവിട്ടി ഓടി ചാനും കേൾക്കും. വന്നടാ.
Oh, yeah.
Man. He's a straight up goon now at this point.
Yeah. Just a hired muscle.
Yep. Exactly.
എക്സൈസുകാരെ പോലെ തല്ലേം പിച്ചേം മാന്തോന്നും ചെയ്യില്ല. കൊന്നോളും ഞങ്ങള്. എന്നെ മനസ്സിലാടാ.
അറിയാം. ഇനി നിങ്ങൾ വാറ്റിന്ന് അറിഞ്ഞാലുണ്ടല്ലോ കഴിഞ്ഞാൻ പറ്റും. ദിവാകരൻ വന്നാൽ ഷാപ്പ് നടത്തുന്നത് പുണ്യം കിട്ടാനല്ല. മനസ്സിലായടാ? ആ പെണ്ണുങ്ങളെ പിടിച്ചോടെ. കുഞ്ഞമ്മേ ഓടിക്കോടി.
This burns the heart, man. Oh. He's smoking now as well. I don't think he was doing any of that stuff back then. Right?
No. And more drinking and yeah.
Yeah, I don't think he was, because there was that scene in Kireedam, I remember, that's coming back to me. He like goes to a bar with the same character.
Yeah.
And one other, and like they're forcing him to drink or something like that, or they're saying this is your dedication now, and he's fighting it. But in this scene, he's like, yep, like it's the opposite. He's like,
He's
no.
owned
Like,
it.
he
Yeah.
says him, I think like Hydro tells him something like, drink, it helps you to relieve stress at times, and it helps you to sleep. And then after that, he just becomes like a drunkard. He's just basically drinking all the time, smoking all the
Yep.
time. So these like changes in his behavior are also just as impactful as to express who he is now.
Yeah.
Go to the dark
That's right.
side.
And just like completely leans into it, and it almost comes off naturally to him, which shows that maybe
Yeah.
there was a degree. It's not necessarily just an act. There's always
Yes.
been that stuff in him, maybe, because he's just
Right.
able to say these things and do these things with no remorse at all.
No.
Because there's a way this character could have gone where he does these things, but he doesn't need to be as harsh or brutal in doing it.
No.
But he's almost reveling it. He's doing it to the nth degree. It's like, maybe
Yeah.
all of us have this darkness in him, or at least he had that
Yeah.
darkness in him, and he's now being completely uninhibited, and he can just fully lean into that, which
Correct.
is a scary thought as well. And such a far cry from how he starts in Kireedam. You couldn't imagine this
No.
character having these kind of tendencies, and yet through the course of circumstances, I guess it's either brought out of him or he becomes that man.
Yeah, and
Which is
I included that first scene when he's coming out of the Jeep, because that to me was such an impactful scene. Because I mean, I'm impacted by the action scenes, and like they're really good.
Of course, yes.
And like even this hut scene, him burning, it's a literal, like devastation. But his expression when he just comes out, that is like that. We take that scene that we saw before of him turning heel or whatever, turning evil. I mean, match it up to this one here. He's basically like, you can't mess with me anymore, and it's completely different. He's like a villain.
Completely
now.
different.
He's a completely different person, and he's showing it through like his stature, his power. Like you can't do anything
Yes.
to touch me. Like if you try to challenge me, I'm gonna take you all out. And you see the brothers just like meekly being like,
Yeah. Except
you're too good for us. Like
yeah. We have no chance.
Exactly. So man, it was just
What a terrifying transformation, man.
I know it's one of the better transformations I've seen of somebody just going from like one gear to another and just being somebody else. And it's just done through again, stepping out of the Jeep with the aggression that he has, like the way he's talking and pointing.
Yes.
It's just those subtle things like that has more impact to me than him burning down the hut. Like yes, obviously
Absolutely.
that's something that's terrifying, but him just being that menacing to you, maybe because it's more relatable. Like if someone just comes up to your face and treats you like that, we all know that feeling when someone comes up to you like, oh shit, like dude,
Yeah.
you can't do anything. But yeah, so that's why I included that scene, because it was just such a good one, really short, but I thought it was like, yeah, this
It says a lot.
encapsulates who he is now. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And so right that it's not the action stuff that he's doing. It's the expression, it's the language he's using that is the more
Yeah.
just scary part of who he's become.
Yeah. Definitely. Well, we'll get on to the few more.
ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് വാതിലടയ്ക്കാം.
Oh boy.
Ah,
Man.
now I think this might be the most devastating thing.
Yeah, I know.
Actually.
എന്നോട് വേണമെന്നില്ല. ഇത് ഒരാൾ കൊണ്ടുവന്ന് ഇവിടെ വന്നപ്പോഴാണ് ഞാൻ ഇവളാണെന്ന് അറിയുന്നത്. അറിഞ്ഞപ്പോഴെങ്കിലും നിനക്ക് ഒഴിവാക്കാൻ പറ്റില്ലടാ.
Damn, man.
അശോകേ, പിടിച്ചോ, വിട്. വിടണ്ട. വെറുതെ ആളുകൾ അറിയും. പെങ്ങൾ, ഞാനാണോടാ കുറ്റക്കാരൻ?
Jeez. Man.
മോഹൻ, എണീക്കടി.
Again. The way he's handling her, right? It's just
It's like it's not even treating her like a
Treating
sister,
her,
a younger
my
sister.
God.
Yeah.
ആകെ തവണയില്ലേ? ഇനി എന്തോന്ന് ഓടാൻ? വാ ഇവിടെ.
oh,
നിന്നെ ഞാൻ കൊല്ലാം. വാടി.
probably the worst thing that could have happened just then.
I mean, this might be contender for the most heart-wrenching scene. Man.
തുറക്കാൻ. വാതില് തുറക്കാൻ. തുറന്നില്ലെങ്കിൽ ഞാൻ ചവിട്ടി പൊളിക്കും.
വിഷമിക്കണ്ട ആശാനെ, എല്ലാവരുടെ ഉള്ളിലുണ്ട് തീ. എന്റെ ഉമ്മ ആരാണെന്നറിയാമോ? കൊല്ലത്ത് ചിന്നക്കടയിൽ ഒരു ലോറി ബീവാത്തുണ്ട്. ലോറിക്കാർക്കൊക്കെ അറിയാം. ആ ഉമ്മയുടെ മോന.
Again, the parallels with him as well is pretty fascinating.
വയസ്സായിട്ടും
It's a crushing story as well.
കാണുമ്പോ
Yeah.
എല്ലാവർക്കും ഒരു തമാശ.
So brutal.
പക്ഷെ എന്റെ ഉള്ളിൽ
Damn, man.
ബാപ്പുണ്ട്. വടക്കം കണ്ട് സുഖമായിട്ട് കഴിയണം. ആ എന്താ
Oh.
ലീവേ? നോക്കണം.
No.
സേതു ഇനി മതി, നീ വീട്ടിലേക്ക് ചെല്ലേ.
ആരുടെ വീട്? എനിക്ക് വീടൊന്നുമില്ല.
ബാപ്പ ഒരു വിവരം പറഞ്ഞു. സ്റ്റേഷനിൽ മെസ്സേജ് വന്നതാ. നിന്റെ അച്ഛൻ ദിവാകരൻ മുതലാളിയുടെ ഹോട്ടലില്
ഹോട്ടലിൽ
മരിച്ചു. ഫാനിൽ കെട്ടി തൂങ്ങി.
Jesus.
ഈശ്വര.
You just see how things just keep getting worse and worse. Like it's
They
at the point
really
where
do.
it's like, I mean, at the point where he says like, "I have nothing left." Like everything deteriorates right after that. Just then, like everything.
Yeah. It just continues to
His
get
dad, it just keeps
worse.
getting worse and worse. Like my God, it's
Oh my gosh.
yeah, that
I
scene was
mean,
pretty hard to watch, man.
that might be the toughest one, just because I think we've talked a lot about the Sethu Madhavan character, but what about the fall from grace of his dad, right?
I know,
Being a
yeah.
proud, upstanding policeman
Officer.
who's happily retired now, well, who should be happily retired, to then having to now fend for his family in retirement, having no money, and essentially pimping out his daughter.
That was
And someone who's, and he's, people talk about him as like someone who's very prideful, who's got a lot of pride in what he does, and for him to be reduced to this, and you see him smoking, you see him coming home drunk, like it's the fall from grace for his character is almost as painful, I think, as
It
seeing it
definitely is,
for Sethu Madhav, and especially someone who had such high hopes that his son would become a policeman, his family
I
set
know.
up for life, and you'd think when you're that age you happily live with your family, but life gets 100 times worse, and you're just like, oh my
Correct.
gosh, man, that is a brutal
Yeah.
brutal fall for him.
No, his performance was also fantastic considering how
He is.
limited his time was on screen.
Yes.
And I guess it was kind of one dimensional. Like he's basically just going from worse to worse. But even just in
It's
that,
true.
man, just seeing him pimping out his daughter like that was just so hard to watch. And yeah, he's like he's shamed by it. Like
He
like
is
he sees,
ashamed.
like that's basically what probably takes him over the edge. He sees his son, who he has like I guess at this point a very troubled relationship with, because they say at times where he'll talk about the family, and then when he talks about like the uncle character comes up and he's saying like
Yeah.
when he talks about you, Satu, like he starts off talking in like ire, but then he'll start to get very sad and start sobbing like a little like a little
He's got
child.
such hopes for him. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's broken completely, but it's also part of I don't know how much this has to play, but there's a cultural lens to it as well. Maybe to this, because elders in general are seen, especially in South Asian culture, as we both know. Elders are seen as like the people that are respected in culture and held at a high regard. So people of the community will go to them for advice. Like, hey, I want to do this business here. Do you want to? They'll go to the elder person in the community, ask them what do you think, because they'll have knowledge and stuff like that. He can't be that person, which he would have been if things had
That's
gone
right.
right, right?
That's right.
He's lost his. There's a lot of stuff about society as well, which we haven't touched on too much. But there's a lot of that because just like the breakdown of society and how society is always after him and how it has an impact throughout everything and everyone. His actions have impacted everybody.
That's
Um,
right.
but yeah, man, it's just tough to see that, including the sister. Like she doesn't want to get married because of what she's doing. Like she has a line. She says something like, "A man will accept you with one or two men," but then to see like what she's done, they wouldn't
Yep.
accept her. So she's had to do that because of what happened before.
Yep.
Oh,
It's the only way to get money to like the family and to the other son
support
who's
the brother.
studying
Yeah,
medicine. I think it's just also there must be such devastation for the Thilakan character, the father, because he would have been held in such high esteem by his son once upon a
yeah,
time, right? And to now know that his
lost that.
son knows that this is what he's become and this is what he's doing. Imagine how that must hurt a
Yeah,
father, right? To have a son
correct.
who idolized you and worshipped you, wanted to be exactly like you, and now to see he knows what you're doing, that I
Correct.
think it must have been the final straw for him.
I think so. Yeah, yeah.
It's
It's
shocking,
tough.
man.
I included
And
that last
again,
scene with. Oh, sorry. Go on.
go on, go on.
I was gonna say the last scene which I included with what's it called, hydros as
Oh,
well, because
yes.
again it was just another thing that they did. They included him. I don't think he has too much dialogue here. He doesn't have too much
No.
story here, but that little bit of exposition again. We talked about the parallels. I was thinking while watching this, it's again like he's been shunned by society the same way Setumadan's been shunned by society essentially,
Yeah.
right? Like his family
Yes.
in the other this time it's the other way. Like his family has done something that's impacted him. But in this case, with Setu, he did something which impacted the family. So again, they're
Yeah.
playing with the perspective once again and the different storylines, the different impacts. There's all these themes at play with just that one little piece of exposition that he has to tell you what his story is.
It's amazing that they included just, that 1 minute
I know,
of kind of explanation of his character, because he could have just been like the, sidekick character who's
correct.
there
It's
for
a
like
thug, right?
mild comedic relief almost, but
Correct.
they decide to flesh him out as well, and just goes to kind of build up this narrative that, the world is kind of a bit of a cruel place in this
Yes.
film, right? So the mother
Yeah.
talks about how much lower can the world push me to go,
Yeah.
and everyone's got their own struggles and are dealing with it however they can. Like everyone's got a
Yeah.
little bit of tragedy sprinkled out throughout their lives, and
Correct.
they're all coping with it in different ways, which I think is just a level of nuance I didn't expect in a film.
No, that line you mentioned about how it's handling in different ways is really interesting because he's handling it through just drinking
Yeah,
essentially.
yeah.
Whereas that's not something that Setumadan even touched before. Like again, like both gone through pretty tragic situations, both handling it completely different, but the outcome is both pretty tragic. Like they both live in a pretty
Yeah.
sad life, very
Yes.
hard life, and that's sort of what they've come together with. So it's good. I'm happy they took like a comedic character because he was a full on comedian in the
Yeah,
first
yeah,
movie.
yeah.
In the first
Yeah,
movie, like
yeah,
there
yeah,
was a
yeah.
bit more comedy in the first one because of him, but I think in general the actor is more a comedian as well.
Yes,
So
yeah.
that's the case, but in this case, he wasn't a comedian at all. He was like his side, like his helper who helps him every now
Yeah,
and then,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
then essentially this little piece of exposition to see his story as well. So it's a small little thing, but again, this movie is all about the little
Makes a huge
subtleties and the little
difference.
pieces
Yeah.
that are here, which you can just be like, remember that scene that was so powerful?
Yeah,
It's
right. It
it's
builds
credit to
the
the writing.
world. It's not just about Mohanlal
Yes,
and his family. There's a full world of people with their own issues, and you're
correct.
seeing a small portion of it.
Yeah, it's not specific to this one character, right? The themes are prevalent throughout everywhere, but we're studying it
Absolutely.
through this one character.
Yeah.
So
Good point.
brilliant, brilliant work.
എന്നോട് ചോദിച്ചത് ശരിക്കും സിൻസിയർ ആയിട്ടായിരുന്നോ?
എന്ത്?
കല്യാണം കഴിച്ചോട്ടെ എന്ന്?
ഓ അതോ കള്ളു കുടിച്ച് വെളിവില്ലാതെ പറഞ്ഞാണെന്ന് തോന്നിയോ?
ഇല്ല, എനിക്ക് സിൻസിയർ ആയിട്ട് തന്നെയാ തോന്നിയത്. ആണുങ്ങൾ പല കമന്റും പറയാറുണ്ട്, വൃത്തികേടുകൾ പറയും. ചിലർക്ക് വേണ്ടത് ഒരു രാത്രി, ചിലർ ഞാൻ നോക്കിക്കൊള്ളാം നിന്നെന്ന് പറയും. കല്യാണം കഴിക്കട്ടെ എന്ന് ചോദിച്ചത് ആദ്യ.
This is actually a pretty powerful scene, thinking about it.
Yeah.
ഇപ്പൊ അവിടുന്ന് പോന്നപ്പോ അമ്മ എന്താണ് പറഞ്ഞതെന്നറിയോ? ഇപ്പോഴാണ് അയാളത് ചോദിച്ചിരുന്നെങ്കിൽ ഞാൻ സമ്മതിക്കായിരുന്നെന്ന്. ഇപ്പോഴും ആ ചോദ്യം ഉണ്ടെന്ന് ഞാൻ വിചാരിച്ചോട്ടെ. ആലോചിക്കാതെ പറഞ്ഞതാണെങ്കിൽ പാലിക്കണമെന്ന് നിർബന്ധമില്ല. എന്നാലും വെറുതെ പ്രതീക്ഷിക്കാലോ എനിക്ക്. തൊഴഞ്ഞു പോകുമ്പോ ദൂരെ ഒരു കരയുണ്ടെന്ന് പ്രതീക്ഷിക്കുന്നത് ആശ്വാസമല്ലേ?
ദൂരെയല്ല, അരികിൽ. ആ കൈ എന്നുയർത്തിയാൽ തൊടാവുന്ന പോലെ അത്ര അരികിൽ.
It's that thing that we talked about, like the society part, right? Like
Mm,
she herself has been shunned by society again, um, as basically just an object. It sounds like they don't really
yeah.
respect her to marry her, right?
No.
Because of like her family and things like that. And then maybe that is what sort of this relationship is about. Like there is somebody here who's also gone through his own tragedy,
Yes.
he's struggling to find his own identity and his way forward with life. So she sees something in him that there's some relatability because he doesn't meet the standards of what you would want in a groom, right? Like he doesn't have a job,
No.
he doesn't
No.
have a family to anything like that. But they're both
No.
two, I guess, lost souls in this world, just trying to figure it out. So I just thought it was the more
Beautiful
scenes they
scene.
got together, the more I understood. And watching it again, I'm like, yes, this makes sense to me now, even more.
Yeah, no, it's true. The more you kind of, as I'm watching these scenes again, the dynamic makes sense to me because, in a way, they've both been outcasts now because,
Yeah,
the Seth Martin character, he's, just a burden to the people around him, or at least that's how he sees it. And she is like, I don't know, the illegitimate daughter for
yeah,
Jose, I guess, or not his actual daughter, but
yeah.
like, Jose's family don't care about her. It's only the boy that they
No,
care about. So again, yeah, she's just someone that can be cast aside and is maybe a burden for people, and maybe the there's a connection there, and I just appreciated how like the vulnerability there as well, where she was talking
yeah,
about how people treat her, almost replicating the vulnerability he showed when he was drunk, and kind of being very brutally honest with them about how he feels,
yes,
and the genuine sincerity for saving his life as well that we saw in the earlier
correct.
scene, and I just love that we got that perspective from her character as well. She wasn't just some, romantic interest with no story of her own, and that was it. No, she has her own
Yeah,
experiences, and she's finding a relatable person in Seth Madhavan for a particular reason, not just because he's the
yeah.
main lead of the film.
Yeah, that's a great point because that's what like a movie without great writing would have done that. Like we need a
Yeah,
female interest, we need love,
yeah, yeah,
romance,
yeah,
put her in there. Don't
yeah,
give her
yeah,
much
yeah.
of a story, give her one or two
Yeah.
scenes, and then
You
don't
know,
flesh it out. But
no, that's
she
right.
obviously has a complex story, and she relates to Setu Madhavan in a very,
Yes,
I guess, intimate way because of that, which just bridges them together, which is obviously very unique. Because why would you? She killed your father, I mean, he killed your father, but she's obviously got to a point where she doesn't think of that anymore. um, so yeah,
that's
it's
right.
again, I appreciate this movie for treating every single person in this movie with respect. Male,
Good.
female, whoever, disabled. It sort of treats everybody with some a
Yeah.
level of being like, you have a place in society, you have a story to tell, and we're going to do our best here to put that bit of that story in there alongside
Yes.
this movie. So it's really a testament to like how much this movie did. It's such a
Yeah.
I feel like this movie is so much deeper than Kireedam in a way. like in a
I
way,
think
it
it's
has
true.
a lot to offer.
That's right. In a way, Kireedam was a straightforward story of a fall from
Yeah,
grace. This is about examining the consequences of that for a myriad of
yeah,
people. And
exactly.
that's infinitely more complex than just getting from plot A to plot B.
Exactly right. Well, let's get on to. I think this is the final scene, so you might be able to guess what this one is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, damn man.
പൊയ്ക്കോ. ആരും അറിയണ്ട. എന്റെ വിധി നിനക്കുണ്ടാവരുത്.
Oh, man.
ഒരു സേതുമാധവന്റെ വിധി. പോ.
Setu Madhavan's fate. So tragic, man.
Oh, man.
So
That is
tragic,
brutal.
man. It's so heartbreaking. Like it was just like, in some ways, it's inevitable. Like the way this was going. Like I don't
Yeah.
know what other outcome there would
I
be.
couldn't see
There are
it. Yeah.
moments of like, okay, maybe there's a chance of redemption here, maybe something's good here. But the way this movie just kept giving us the ups and downs, and even at
No.
this point, like before the last scene, they had moved out to the farm, they were living this idyllic life in a
Pretty
way, but
happy life.
you
Yeah.
can't escape your past. Again, it just comes back
No,
to the
that's
same
right.
theme. You cannot escape your past or what you did, And
100%. And I think like maybe a cheaper version of this movie would have had him escape his past, rebuild, and have a
Yes,
get go overcome
happy
his
ever,
yeah,
happily ever after.
give him what he wants. Yeah, yeah, and there is something to be said for those kind of redemption
Yeah,
stories as well. But here, maybe he does get redemption through this last scene in some way, but
yeah,
he doesn't save himself really. He well, maybe he saves in saving that kid from his fate.
he
He does
does the legacy, I
save,
guess.
yeah, that's right. But he doesn't get the happy ending that we would have liked for him. And I thought that's
Correct.
grim, but also this story stays true to its themes and to itself, which I really had to respect, even though it was so gut wrenching.
It really was. It's just like I mean, the only things that are a bit ambiguous is like what the legacy would be after this, in a
Yeah,
way, like not his own legacy, but just like how will society change, if at all,
I
based on
can't
this, and
imagine.
maybe no,
Yeah,
it wouldn't, right? Yeah,
I can't imagine how it changed, nor how the lives of the people around him get any better as a
exactly.
result of this. Like,
Yeah,
they've now lost another person who brings them, the breadwinner for the family. What's going to happen? It's not
and a
clear
new
what happened to
family.
and a new family. So it doesn't resolve all of the things perfectly, but that's also
No,
fine because their stories will go on, and you know, this person's story is ended, and yeah, it's beautifully done, and I think it's a good thing it doesn't try and resolve all of those questions.
no, that's true. Yeah, I think it's like it's not really open ended, like in terms of Setu Madhuvan's character, but because of all the other characters that were involved, you sort of
Yes,
have to ponder like what happens to the family now, like what happens to the mother now. Does she also lose her life?
that's right.
Like what happens? Like it's just like because again, this movie does a better job, I think, of actually bringing other characters to life. So you kind of feel it's not just the impact of him losing his life. We were followed for two movies now, but the impact is going to have the same way the father passed away, the impact that had
Yes,
on him and the rest of the
yes,
family. This is just another person that's lost his life, and it's just tragic once again. Hard movie to watch in some ways because of that. And if you follow the journey from Kireedam to this, it's gut wrenching. Like
it
there's no other
really
word
is.
for it. It's really just tears your insides out. But again, this movie is honestly like as a sequel to come up against a movie like Kireedam and to
Yeah,
have to try and top that with a
yeah,
much less straightforward story, a straightforward plot. How much they
yeah.
achieved in this movie to me is seriously impressive. Like it's just, it's
I
really good.
couldn't agree more, man. When you told me this was a sequel, my first thought was, why did Kiridam need a sequel? Like, I thought it
Yeah,
was a perfectly self-contained
I
movie.
know.
But having seen this now, you're like, oh, there was more story to tell. There was
Correct.
kind of, yeah, the greater narrative about, cycles of violence and the impacts of actions
Yeah,
on other people. I think that's an even more powerful story than just
yeah,
someone's fall from grace, I think. How
exactly.
your actions have repercussions, the different perspectives you can take to those repercussions. It's
Yeah.
beautifully done, man, and I'm glad that they did the sequel.
Yeah, I'm really glad they did the sequel, and I'm glad that it was a two-part sort of series because obviously, like Chenkol can't exist without Kireedam. Like this movie
No,
cannot exist without
no,
Kireedam.
that's right.
Kireedam obviously can exist without Chenkol, but I
Yeah,
think having this as like a companion piece to Kireedam, I honestly, if you have not seen this movie, I don't know why you listen all the way here, and then if you've not seen it, but if for anyone that you know that has not seen this movie, tell them to watch the movie if they've seen Kireedam because it
yeah,
does it's not complete. The story is not complete without seeing
that's right.
this. Like we really get to
Yes,
see the whole story and
full
the
impact.
impact it has. I was surprised. I was looking through some of the comments before. This movie apparently wasn't a box office success, which surprises me a little bit. It is a
Yeah,
little heavy, I will say. So
that's what I would attribute it to if I had to
yeah,
choose one thing. It's because it's not the performances, it's not the writing, it's not the
no.
music, all of which are beautiful across the board.
Oh my god, beautiful. Yeah, it's probably just the fact that the theme is it's a hard movie to digest, and seeing this at the end of this movie, you walk out not smiling. You
No,
walk out this movie sad.
yeah, that's
So
right.
that makes it a bit difficult in the box office, I would think. But you're right. We didn't even talk about things like the music, which this had a lot more of, which were all really good and
Beautifully
impactful
done.
songs. I feel like there was a song in
Yes.
between. I think when he's going to the farm and they're building that relationship up together, and
Yeah,
there's
yeah, yeah.
glimpses of who he was in the first half of the first movie of
Yes.
Kireedam. So it's
Yes.
reflecting back on that, but then again, it's a quick downfall. So there are reflections of sort
Yes.
of what happens in there. So there's a beautiful songs throughout the movie. The intro song was also beautiful as well. It's so much to like
Yeah.
about this. It's well shot for a movie that's in freaking 1993.
Yeah.
It's timeless, I would say. Like it hasn't
Oh,
aged at all. I watched this movie
no.
without thinking of those things. Like maybe some parts there was some choppy editing where it just cut to a scene straight away in one or two
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
instances. I felt, but that's really nitpicky at this point. Like there was
No,
really nothing.
there's really nothing I would like
No,
critique about the filmmaking quality here. And just to
no,
stress, some of the writing is really beautiful in this as
yeah,
well. Like the characters almost turn poetic in some
I do.
instances, like in that scene where she's talking about you can see the shore afar, and he's
I
like, "No,
know.
it's as
My God,
close as your
beautiful.
hand." And then obviously the last scene where they're talking about the king and the specter and the story
Yes,
ending.
yes.
Like there's a lot of like poetic and philosophical aspects to this movie that kind of blend in so well and that you wouldn't expect, but
No,
it's done just so seamlessly and gorgeously.
definitely. Well, Sonny, I couldn't have done this without you, man. I would not have
Man,
watched it without you. So,
glad we were able
you
to
know,
do this all together.
no, I'm really happy to do this, guys. Let us know in the comment section what you thought about this. If you listened to this all the way, thank you so much. We really appreciate you guys listening to our commentary and our analysis of these movies. This is one that, as I said, I've been waiting for a long time, and I've been waiting to watch this movie, and I can say it did not disappoint. It's such a
Absolutely
fantastic
not.
movie. Looking forward to doing it again, man. So,
Looking
Sonny will be
forward to
coming
it, man.
around much more. So, yeah,
That's
we'll
right.
be talking
Looking
again.
forward to it.
All right, guys. Thanks again. Catch you later.
Till next time, guys. Bye.